Welcome to BALLBUSTERS Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. If you'd like to keep up to date with the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. Now, we are joined by Betty Van Velsen and Quantum Eraser. How are you both doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. I hope your computer is fine too.
Yeah, all is well.
Good afternoon again.
Indeed, yes. Take two. So, in case this is being watched and I do take the other one down, which I think I will, unfortunately it's been shared everywhere, I'll have to take it off all the playlists, but this is actually the second time we've attempted this due to a computer failure. However, more importantly than that, we will be addressing the single best heliocentric debunking there is. So we will be talking about a very simplistic idea, which is gas pressure. So as you can see from the spinning ball that's on screen right now, the alleged surface of the Earth we dwell atop has gas pressure stuck to the side of it in an infinitely ever-expanding vacuum of space. And based on the second law of thermodynamics, a natural law which applies always, the gas would expand and fill that space, leaving us with no gas to breathe. So in essence, the vacuum of space, claimed to be the sky above our heads, is a second law of thermodynamics violation, and we're going to be covering that today. So John, Betty, who wants to start?
Or I thought it was going to be bird landing, because I got the notification on the video earlier today. I was going to mess with the presentation, tweak it a little bit, and I got the notification when I started doing it. So I pulled the video up, and it was Arwen. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it, a typical premiere from you. And Arwen was on there, so I said, "Oh, what's going on here?" So I listened to this whole thing, and it's the undergraduate physics student and talking about gravity. And I knew, we all know how this is going to end. So I said, okay, here we go. He's not going to be able to do anything. He's going to get asked a bunch of questions. He's going to obfuscate and divert. But towards the end, he finally gave his observed natural phenomena, and I wasn't ready for it. And he said bird landing. So I was done for the next 2 hours, man. I couldn't deal with the presentation because I just lost it. We're getting to this level of absolute ridiculousness, man. Wait till we listen to that. I just couldn't get over it. I'm still put off. I don't know if I'm ever going to be right. Go ahead.
Well, Arwen ended the show, so we didn't get to establish whether or not we had the cause for the natural phenomena of bird landing. Would have been so sweet if we had, but nevertheless, gas pressure being the subject of the day. Let's not worry about gravity. Although we may get to gravity, and I'm pretty sure we will at some stage during this discussion.
We're not going to get. I didn't put gravity on here.
Oh, okay.
Because last week we dealt with gravity, right?
Yeah,
we pummeled gravity last week. I'm not begging the question with gravity anymore. With this, gravity's over. So no gravity today.
Well, I'll put in a side note then, just for anybody who after this puts in a comment below that says, "Oh, gravity defeats all of these arguments." Well, we would be asking for the same things, which is to say, any assertion made here, for example, give us a demonstration of gas pressure being maintained without a container. You can just strap gravity onto that. So give us a demonstration of gas pressure being maintained by way of gravity without a container. It makes absolutely sod all difference. You're still not going to demonstrate it. But nevertheless, just want to drop that in early for any cocky commenters, which there are many.
Well, then their observed phenomena would be bird landing. See the connection?
Right.
Yeah.
So, where do we begin?
Let's start at the beginning.
Sounds like
with
a good place to start.
Pressure. right? I mean, this is an easy subject. Uh, Everyone has access to this on a daily basis. We all know it almost intuitively. So this is going to be pretty easy. I love this. I love it. I really do. We're going to have a little fun with this. So whenever you're ready.
You need presenting, yeah?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm presented. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not
No,
watching the
I'll
channel.
bring it.
So.
It's just me. I've got to bring you up and then make the chat look nice. So, yeah, you're on screen now. Everyone can see you in the audience.
Okay. Well, let's begin at the beginning. Gas pressure, right? And like Nathan said, this is the single most devastating argument against the heliocentric spinning ball space monkey religion. Just gas pressure. That's it. It implodes the fallacy, model right at its core. The best part, that's not the best part. An incoherent first grader can stand against the premier physicists of the world and defeat any assault within seconds in between iterations of Candy Crush. That's how great this argument is, right? And it's very easy. So let's begin. We'll start off with Elmhurst University with the kinetic molecular theory explanation of Boyle's gas law. Observations about pressure may be explained using the following ideas. The rapid motion and collisions of molecules with the walls of the container causes pressure, force on a unit area. Pressure is proportional to the number of molecular collisions and the force of the collisions in a particular area. The more collisions of gas molecules with the walls, the higher the pressure. We all know this. They said it. We know it. It's not a big deal. Everyone knows this. It's not a big secret, right? But let's go to Chem Libra and see what they have to say. Pressure is caused by gas molecules hitting the walls of the container. With a smaller volume, the gas molecules will hit the walls more frequently, and so the pressure increases. This is shocking surprise, right? It's over. So the necessary antecedents that cause gas pressure are simply, number one, the rapid motion and collisions of molecules. Collisions with what? Well, the walls of the container. This is quite elementary. Take either number one or number two away, and you don't have gas pressure. It's just that simple. No amount of linguistic or mathematical acrobatics will change it. By the way, newsflash, you can't have volume without a container. And we're going to get to that here in a bit. So say bye-bye now to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. All right, we can stop right there. Let's stop right there.
Okay.
Any comments on this?
Yeah, volume. So that's going to be Brenda that comes under the scalpel there, isn't it?
Oh, it's not only her, it's everyone, because they just don't understand volume and its implications with all their formulas in the laws. It's going to get bad here in a second.
Betty?
So yeah.
Yeah, I've seen comments on that Boyle's law was only for this was funny. It was only for small experimentations or visionaries for it to be shown in laboratories and stuff, just to show with the containers, right? So it doesn't show itself on a bigger scale, but only on a small scale. They try to get away with that. That it only applies to small quantities, and not on atmospheric larger.
I didn't know that was a condition here. I don't see scale in here, so that must not be a condition, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it in this definition either. Nothing about scales. If it doesn't mention it, it's not a condition.
Yeah.
So
still, they want to try to separate the larger things on the larger scale and things on the small scale.
We're going to deal with that here in a few minutes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, let's before we move on, let's relate this to Earth. So we're talking about the walls of a container and how that gives rise. What can you just repeat, John? The measurement that is applied.
Pounds per square inch,
or
usually.
force over unit area, either or. So you've got the measurement itself for gas pressure, the stuff we're breathing right now, or based upon the amount that presses, or the frequency of pressing on the walls of a container. Now again, we've got our pretty graphic of where they allege we live, and across the entire surface there's gas pressure, high energy, and what's it doing? Well, it's just magically staying there. Well, no, that's what debunks the assertion that we are on anything like this graphic on screen right now, because the gas hasn't got a wall to press upon. Well, what's it next to? Well, it's next to a very, 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 very low pressure system. Near vacuum, in fact. So the gas, again, would fill the space because there's nothing for it to press upon. Only vacuum, a lower pressure system. And guess what? You don't press on vacuums, you disperse into them.
Yep. That's clear.
Precisely. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder if I start saying about Boyle's law in the same respect, because you have just covered it. Maybe it won't come up again. If it doesn't, then I'll talk about that as well.
No, Boyle's law is going to be coming up here.
Okay, I thought so. I'll shut up. We'll move on.
Many times. Yeah,
okay.
Many times. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, in that case, I'm happy. And Betty, if you've got anything to add, feel free. Otherwise, I'll put your screen back on.
Oh, just carry on.
Cool.
Okay, we will. Let me know when it's up, and you're going to see Boyle's law.
Excellent. Yeah, you're up. You presented.
All right, spinning space monkeys, and this is trademarked, by the way. So this is from Wiki, the Baltard's alma mater. Boyle's law, sometimes referred to as the Boyle-Mariotte law, or Mariott's law, if you're in France, is an experimental gas law that describes how the pressure of a gas tends to increase as the volume of the container decreases. That's Boyle's gas law. So from Penn State, Boyle's law, or pressure volume law. Yeah, and there's a reason why I'm laughing here, because this is the death knell. It's right in the title. It's over. Pressure and volume. You can't get away from this. That was hilarious. It states that the volume of a given amount of gas held at a constant temperature varies inversely with the applied pressure when the temperature and mass are constant. And here's the equation right here. You see this part right here? We don't have to deal with pressure. You see this part right here? That's your huckleberry. You know why? Question. How can you have volume without a container? Back to the Baltard's Wiki alma mater. Volume is the quantity of three-dimensional space enclosed by a closed surface. For example, the space that a substance, solid, liquid, gas, plasma, or shape occupies or contains. Volume is often quantified numerically using the SI-derived unit, the cubic meter. The volume of a container is generally understood to be the capacity of the container, i.e. the amount of fluid, gas, or liquid that the container could hold, rather than the amount of space the container itself displaces. So, in 3 sentences, we have container mentioned 6 times. Right? This is over. It's all over, people. You can't get out of this. So, say bye-bye now to your Baltard spinning space monkey religion. Okay? We want to move on. Let's move on. Let's just roll with this. So, spinning space monkeys. You see this? This is the ideal gas law. All this is the generalization of the Boyle's gas law. And what we're going to be concentrating on, I'll let you try to guess. You see this one right here? That's what we're going to concentrate on, because you can't have this law without that V. So V equals volume. So show V without a container. Question. How can you have volume without a container? Do I need to go through this again? 6 times in 3 sentences. It requires a container. So, say bye-bye now to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. All right, let me stop there, even though I'm going to go for another one. Let me stop there. Any comments, quick questions?
Absolutely. Well, again, we've got our beautiful Earth graphic on screen. So this is all pretty heavily dependent on container and its size, right? Oh, got a bit of feedback.
Come on, Nathan.
Oh,
The
hey,
image.
Arwen.
It's so hypnhypnotizing.
I didn't
so
see you join because
beautiful.
I've reduced the hangout. We've been joined by Arwen. Good to have you, Arwen.
Hello, good evening.
Good
Hello,
evening.
Arwen.
Good evening.
Very pleased to have you. So we're at the point where we're discussing Boyle's law, Arwen. We're talking about the size of the container and how that would dictate or increase and decrease the pressure based on the size of the container. And we've got the Earth graphic on screen, and it doesn't have one.
Yep.
But we've
Yeah,
definitely got,
then the Globers say, but what about gravity? Gravity is gonna make that gas all cling to that ball somehow.
Yeah. Earth is the
And-
container, they say.
Right. But the funny thing is, and even I try to keep telling them, but even gravity in their conceptualization of what it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to do, it's considered a weak force. It's just a push on the matter. And it's never going to be strong enough to oppose the actual force.
Wait a second. Are you talking about bird landing?
What?
bird landing, the phenomena attributed by the pseudo-scientist that was on your panel today, Arwen.
Oh, right.
Bird landing.
No direct relation. I'm just referencing what I've always been saying. That, the supposed gravity force for whatever it's supposed to be doing could never be strong enough to contain all that gas that has a natural tendency to expand and try to find an equilibrium within the container, after which it would then start to form a gradient dependent on the gravity supposedly present. But
Wait a second.
it's never
now.
going to be strong enough.
Wait a
It's
second
never
now.
going to be in outer space. It's going to be an outer gas.
Wait a second now. You said the gravity force. Gravity is not a force.
No, but I understand that. But assuming that presupposition that gravity actually is a real thing.
Nah, we've agreed we're not going to do that on this show, Arwen, as much as you love the subject of gravity. So gravity was smashed on the last show, and there is no
but you can smash it a little bit better by exposing that even in their conceptualization of it, presupposing it, it still doesn't work.
Absolutely, we'll 100% agree it doesn't work, but the main focus is going to be on the gas pressure itself. And in this instance, when we're talking about Boyle's law, which is dictated by the size of the container, and we look at what's on screen, well, what have we got instead of a container? Oh, we've got a vast, ever-expanding infinite vacuum rather than a container.
We got a molten iron core, and we got all that gravity, and it's just magical. It just works. Come on.
No.
Just no.
Just no.
Yeah, so Boyle's
All right.
law simply cannot apply before we move on to the next bit of the presentation. But yeah, you can't have Boyle's law because it's dictated by a container. And what do we have on screen? Well, we've got an Earth without a container.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's over. All right, you ready
It still
to
looks
continue?
pretty convincing, though.
Looks pretty.
Yeah.
Playing into the natural psyche of the human nature.
Right, got your back up. You're presented.
Sorry, we're back on Boyle's gas law again. I had to take another shot at her. So this is from the Baltard's alma mater again, Boyle's gas law, otherwise known as the pressure volume law. I didn't want you guys to forget about that. So from Wiki, for a fixed mass mass of gas at a constant temperature, the volume is inversely proportional to the pressure. This is mathematically, so this is just another way to write the equations above. P V equal K. K is some constant. So you see this V? And it even says where P denotes the pressure of a system, V denotes the volume of the gas, and K is a constant value representative of the temperature and volume of the system. So again, how can you have volume without a container? Do we have to go over the volume definition? I don't need to think or have to read this again. 3 sentences, 6 times container is mentioned. So say bye-bye now to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. Let's move on to entropy. So gas expansion into a vacuum. I'm sorry, this is from entropysite.edu. So listen closely. Gas expansion into a vacuum, mixing of ideal gases or liquids, diffusion, effusion, colligative effects, and osmosis. Each fundamentally involves an increase in entropy, right? This is the second law of thermodynamics. Due to increased dispersion of energy with no change in total energy in the case of ideal substances, due to a greater number of microstates for the particular system involved. Number 1, according to the fairy tale narrative, there's a vacuum surrounding your spinning ball. Number 2, we obviously have gas atmospheric pressure. Number 3, the Earth is not a sealed container. Number 4, the gas pressure is not expanding into the vacuum. So, the ball-tard spinning space monkey Earth defies the laws of entropy, as we just went over above. That's the second law of thermodynamics. And by the way, from Arthur Eddington, if your theory is found to be against the second law of thermodynamics, I can give you no hope. There is nothing for your theory but to collapse in the deepest humiliation. So, spinning space monkeys, Sir Arthur here is serenading you. It's over. You're a standing violation of the second law of thermodynamics. I'll go ahead and stop here for a couple seconds.
We've got the lovely graphic up on again. And yeah, you were talking about the volume of the gas. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, there's definitely a volume. Not to the picture on screen. I mean, that's just complete nonsense picture, right? But where I am, in reality, we've definitely got a volume of gas. Would you all agree?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, in order to have a volume of gas, what would we need in order to have that?
Container.
A container. But the picture on screen doesn't have a container. Instead of a container, we've got this black bit, this vacuum of space instead of a thing to contain the gas. But they allege that the volume is just stuck to the side. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, John. I know you've just said this, but that's in direct contradiction of the second law of thermodynamics, is it not?
Yes, and they have a volume too in the fairy tale narrative, but their volume is 3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic meters. That's the volume of their fairy tale vacuum of space. That volume has an average torr of 10 to the negative 17 torr. Ergo, at sea level, we must have our air pressure at 10 to the negative 17 torr. That's it. That's equilibrium. It's over. Do we have 10 to the negative 17 torr? Are we breathing?
We're definitely breathing.
Then their fairy tale's kaput. It's over. Simple.
And how would we get that in the first place? I mean, how would the Earth being constructed and have that gas be combined? Basically, I don't see how that is possible.
Well, the Big
Gravity
Bang.
attracts it.
No, the Big Bang.
Vacuum of space.
The Big Bang did it.
The Big Bang. Okay. I don't see why that can happen.
We'll save that for another show.
Yeah. It's a good one.
So this is all nonsense then. The idea of this blue ball with gas stuck to the side of it, that's just complete nonsense. This view that nobody's ever getting, none of us are getting it on the panel. Nobody, and I do mean nobody in the audience, not one of you has ever seen this view. Because number one, you can't get that view. You can't have space. It's a second law of thermodynamics violation. The gas we're all breathing would fill the space. And we don't get to go up higher than, 100,000 feet if we had infinite funding. So you're never going to get to see this vantage point. It's just a bullshit picture. Or in this case, bullshit rotating graphic. Anyway.
Come on, Nathan. One day we'll get there.
We won't. We can't go to space. Space is fake. Second law of thermodynamics violation. Covering it right now as we speak in this show. The gas, they say, that exists on the bit that we definitely do live on. We do live on something akin to what they're showing here. And we definitely have gas, like they're showing with these clouds here. But if you look, when this cloud gets to the edge, you can see it's right next to space. The vacuum, well, it would just dissipate. It would just dissipate immediately. And as John says, we'd all be at 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level because it would reach an equilibrium. It would try and dissipate until all of its energy was dispersed equally into the never-ending vacuum of alleged space that we can't possibly have because the gas we breathe is definitely here, not dispersing into the lower pressure system. So this picture, just complete nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, what more can we add?
What I most object to is the actual visibility of the stars. This would never actually look like this if you'd be at any high position. And, who knows how far up you can go. Whatever type of barriers and obstacles are up there, maybe we could go higher eventually. But yeah, what we get to see here on screen, that's never going to be the natural view. Never.
Yeah, you're never going to get to witness a second law of thermodynamics violation before your very eyes. That's never going to happen. So this, like I say, is ipso facto fake because you cannot witness a second law of thermodynamics violation. If you could, it would no longer be a natural law.
Right, but to be fair, even with the balloon footage, when you go really, really high up, the outlook of it does kind of have this bluish, low to the ground type of color, and then the rest of the sky becomes black. And even this happens during the day, from what I've seen. It's very strange how that works. So we don't fully understand really what we're looking at with this high altitude footage because, we don't understand the nature of the heavenly bodies, including the sun, where this light is coming from.
We know what it's not.
Absolutely.
It's not
words
a
out of my
vacuum.
mouth. Absolutely.
Agreed on that. Definitely. Absolutely. The Earth realm, it's all gas. All of it. In a gradient, absolutely, but it's all gas pressure. And there is a container somehow.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
I just want to reiterate what John said. Sorry to cut you off, John. We know what it's not. So, yeah, at night time, I can see the black bit, Arwin. Wouldn't you agree? And I can tell you for absolute certainty, it's not a vacuum. And equally, it's alleged that what is claimed to be celestial bodies, physical bodies in the sky, i.e. they have mass or they are gas in a vacuum also, but we maybe or maybe not get into that, we shall see. Ultimately speaking, when you're in the daytime, it's alleged to have the same stuff in the same place, i.e. when you look at the blue sky of the day, that's also a vacuum. You're just looking at the daytime version of the vacuum of the sky. Well, no, it isn't a vacuum. So it doesn't matter how high I go, the black bit is not a vacuum. Neither is the blue bit. None of it's a vacuum, because if it was, the gas would fill it instantaneously.
Yeah, and don't let this next point be lost. If The medium is not what they say it is. If it is not a vacuum, then all bets are off. Everything that you've claimed that exists in that vacuum is baloney. So you got it.
Oh, come on, it's just the outer gas. It's no longer outer space, it's outer gas.
No.
They'll fill up with air. It's the outer gas universe, guys. Come on, it's a whole new approach.
That's just your Just So
fiction.
story. Let's not confuse the audience. No offense, Arwin, with a new Just So story, even if it's for sarcasm's sake. Because ultimately speaking, this is the linchpin of their religion. So it is fundamental to their religion that the sky is a vacuum. That's fundamental. You can't have any of the descriptions of accretion to bring us into a ball in the first instance. Literally, I could go on and on and on. The entire thing falls apart at the seams when you say, literally with your head nodding up maybe 45 degrees, vacuum, you say? That's the end of their religion.
Yep. Game, set, match. It's over. But let's pile on.
There's a bit more. Oh, okay. Cool.
Oh, yeah, we've got more.
Okay, you're up.
Okay, let's go a little over some containers and gas pressure together. From sciencelearn.org, the atoms and molecules in gases are much more spread out than in solids or liquids. They vibrate and move freely at high speeds. A gas will fill any container, but if the container is not sealed, the gas will escape. So, number one, where's the container? And it better be a sealed container surrounding the Earth, because the gas is going to escape. This is simple. From the University of North Carolina, gases behave differently from the other two commonly studied states of matter, solids and liquids. So we have different methods for treating and understanding how gases behave under certain conditions. Gases, unlike solids and liquids, have neither fixed volume nor shape. They are molded entirely by the container in which they are held. From Elmhurst University, again, the pressure of a gas is the force the gas exerts on the walls of its container. From NASA, the molecules are in constant random motion and frequently collide with each other and with the walls of a container. Because the molecules are in motion, a gas will expand to fill the container. Since density is defined to be the mass divided by the volume, density depends directly on the size of the container in which a fixed mass of gas is confined. Yet even more reading. This is tutoring for children. A gas. It has no shape or size of its own. It takes the shape of its container and occupies the space given to it. All right, couple seconds here. Hello?
You want us to respond?
Yeah, is that it? Yeah, I got a couple seconds here if you want to comment
I
on
thought you
containers.
I thought you were
and
being
gas
interrupted by someone in the background and you just wanted us to wait till
Yeah,
you continued.
I thought
I got
sorry
totally
about
confused
that.
then.
No.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I had a guy on Discord saying that the particles, the gas particles, would shoot upwards. Those that would shoot upwards would lose kinetic energy, and as they gain potential energy, at some certain point that they will lose their kinetic energy and will fall down, basically. By
Yeah, really?
yeah,
So once they reach the thermosphere, do we know the temperatures in the thermosphere? Anyone?
not directly at hand. No.
They're kind of hot. Like 3,000 degrees Celsius, so they're losing their kinetic energy.
So
That's
no.
interesting.
To what?
So no, then.
The atmosphere?
So the particles that shoot upwards, defying gravity, basically, then they would shoot out and disperse into space, right? That's what really happens, or would happen, if it wasn't contained.
Yeah, all nonsense.
Well, to get a measurement, to have pressure, right? Well, you've got to measure it based on the force it exerts on the walls. So at some stage, doesn't matter how high you get or what the conditions are, if you have a gas pressure, then you must have a container. It is the necessary antecedent. And again, we've got our graphic on screen. So you go higher and they say, okay, it gets less. Okay, well, right next to it is a gasless area, much lower energy. So the law of entropy would dictate that the high energy, the gas, the stuff we're breathing, even if it's decreased, even if it's a lower energy, there's still a differential, as opposed to a wall, the necessary antecedent, something to press upon. There's just a vacuum. And that can't possibly work. This is why it's the most glorious debunking of their religion that there is. You can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum. It is as simple as that.
Unless there's a mysterious space barrier due to a secondary influence of gravity. Just putting it out there, science fiction.
Well, but with this kinetic energy, with these particles shooting up, I mean, why would they lose their kinetic energy? Also because of the temperature, of course. But I mean, we have these Newton laws, right? Where something in motion will stay in motion until it's being deflected.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they bring that up also, right? But then that would help, I think, that you have these walls of the container, so these particles will press on the walls. So you have to have an upper wall, basically, a ceiling, somehow.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. If you
All
can follow me.
Yes, yeah. That makes perfect sense. Are we ready to continue? I'm going to go with the typical baller arguments that we get in return.
Yep.
You can do. I just wanted to slip in that one debating point, which is when they get to that stage that Betty's got to. I ask exactly that. What's it pressing on at the top? Because at some point there's gas pressure. It doesn't matter how gradiated you make it. I'm sure we'll come to the open and closed system in this presentation, but the point is that at this stage where they say, right, well, it's getting less and less and less, it's going up and the energy's decreasing, and then they might even give you some magical nonsense about it running out of energy and dropping back down again. But either way, in order for it to be pressure, it must be pressing on something.
I would like to propose something. A what if? What if really high up somehow, maybe slight fisheye lensings, something like that, it would actually look like this, and what you see out there simply is the perception of eternal outer space, but there's simply eventually some kind of end to it, and it just, you don't see that barrier.
Well, regardless,
wouldn't it make sense that it just looks kind of like this?
Regardless, it hasn't at least stated itself to
But
me.
there's
Harwin.
no
I haven't
endless.
seen
It's
any
not-
container. However,
But what I mean is that it looks endless, but it might not be endless. It's just an
definitely
illusion.
not a vacuum, though, because as you rightly point out, regardless of where or what the container is, and I've not seen it, it is still the necessary antecedent to have the gas pressure. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's actually what I'm trying to reaffirm with this. Just because it might look endless in some way, in some interpretation, doesn't mean that it is. With all of this special footage from NASA and from the high balloon footage, it's just how our brains interpret what we see. But just because we can interpret it to be endless doesn't mean that it actually is endless. So maybe there is just a limit above the Earth.
Yeah, it's called the container.
Exactly.
So,
I'm totally agreeing with you.
Yeah, I got you. So, well, we want to move on to the typical ballers claims. We've all heard these, but let's go over them.
Cool.
Yep.
You're on.
So, the challenges to gas pressure needing a container from the peanut gallery. We all hear this one. This is my favorite, I'd have to say. So, the ballers claim The Earth is a containerless, open, pressurized system. Their evidence for this claim? Walk outside. I mean, you got to be kidding me. This is the Elmer Fudd circle jerk of the millennium. Mr. Magoo is blushing with this. This is walking outside isn't evidence. Your claim, you have to support your claim, right? Not just walk outside. That's no evidence. I mean, this is a begging the question. It's a circle jerk. So I don't know. I don't know, people. You better come up with something new. It's second graders would laugh at this. Do I need to stop here? I mean, this.
Yeah, well,
come
they
on.
say,
Yes,
well,
please.
show us the container then. That's also what
We
they-
already went over that just a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
The
well, they want
necessary
to see it.
for
Yeah, I know.
You don't have to see it. I don't need to see the cow if I have a ribeye on my plate. I don't need to see it. If it's already established that ribeyes come from cows, then I never have to see the cow. If I see the ribeye, the cow must necessarily exist.
Yep.
Is that good?
Yeah, sure. For me it is, but for
Well-
the multitude, it's not. They want to see
it
the
should.
container.
Well, it's not my responsibility. The onus is not on me to convince Elmer Fuds of their train wreck logic. That's not my problem. They need to fix that.
Yep.
All right.
I do have
Anything?
something to just one more thing to add. So this is the part of the debate again which lends me to expressing this repeatedly, that this is a glorious debunking of the heliocentric system, because all they can do in terms of their evidence, any demonstration will never be forthcoming of a second law of thermodynamics violation. So literally they have to overtly beg the question on the spot. And it's so far today on the debate, I don't think it's ever not happened. In other words, they being globeheads, automatically assert their fundamentalist belief about what the Earth in space does. And I'll say it again, Math Powerland, shout out to you. We never get this vantage point. We never see this. The thermodynamic violation, the second law. Yeah, we don't get to see this. We're never going to get this vantage point. But ultimately speaking, when you ask them how they can prove we have gas pressure without a container, i.e. gas pressure, high energy, pressing against nothing but a vacuum that it's not dispersing into, they will tell you, as John rightly points out, that go outside. In other words, use their fundamentalist belief that Earth can exist with gas pressure next to a never-ending vacuum. They use that belief to justify the belief. It's the worst circle jerk there is. And as I say, considering this is the strongest debunking of their religious belief in a spinning ball with gas attached to the side, hurtling through a never-ending vacuum of space, you would think they'd have something better than, we'll just go outside and accept my fundamentalist belief in this second law of thermodynamics violation, gas pressure existing next to a container. Because I say it's so, I go outside and experience gas pressure, therefore my fundy belief in space must be real. Absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, it's tantamount to, like I have here, the wind is generated by black holes interacting with dark energy. My evidence for that is walk outside. I mean, it's based. This is actual non sequitur fallacies are blushing over this nonsense. So it's ridiculous. So the next, are we ready for the next one?
Yep.
I think so.
Okay, the sulfur hexafluoride. We all seen this, so let's take a look at this. So the sulfur hexafluoride trick. So let's go back here, and I won't play it, so we won't get any copyright strikes. So you see back here, this is the sulfur hexafluoride, right? They bring in the sulfur hexafluoride, and they're going to put the sulfur hexafluoride in this empty, looks like a fish tank. It's got a cardboard cover over it, right? But my question is, why did they bring the sulfur hexafluoride gas into the classroom with the container? I mean, that's our argument, right?
It is. I'm sorry, I know
So-
that was a rhetorical question, but I'm going to shout out a YouTuber called 10 to the minus 17 Tor for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed.
Roger. So this is a container. Why didn't they bring it in like a milk crate? So you're just supporting our argument here. Let's take a look at this. So they're going to fill this tank up, right? They got their little hose there. He's turning the valve. He's opening the valve of the container, right? So let's see where he goes here. He's putting it in. Let's see if we get a good look at that cylinder in back. I'm going to have to take a good look at that. Should be coming up here any second. Oh, so the lid. Why does he have a lid? Why is there a lid on this? Right? Let's take a look at that. Oh, there you go. Maybe here in a couple seconds. There we go. There we go. A little bit more. He's not going to give it all to me, is he? Okay, see the cylinder right here? Why do you need that cylinder? I mean, this is our argument that you have to have gas to have gas pressure. You need a container. Well, they're satisfying this rule for us right now. There's a container. So let's continue. So let's see what they're going to do. They're going to take the top off, right? There's a good picture of the valve stem and the container, right? And now we get our aluminum foil boat, right? This is really amazing. I love this magic trick. So he's going to put the aluminum foil boat down and oh, it floats. It's magic. What else are they going to do? Notice how fast after he took the container lid off, right? That they put the magic aluminum boat in there. It was real quick, right? They put that in there real quick. Keep that in mind. So there they go with their boat and they start pouring stuff in. Wow, that's really magic. Love it. I'll bet you the kids loved it. Okay. So, my questions. What's in the gas tank? Again, what's in the gas tank just behind the fish tank? Number 2, why is there a lid over the fish tank when the sulfur hexafluoride gas is added to the fish tank? Number 3, and this is a sidebar, is sulfur hexafluoride gas a man-made gas or is it a natural gas? That is, if man wasn't or didn't exist, would sulfur hexafluoride exist? If so, is it available for scientific inquiry? But that's not the real game here. See, I've been waiting. This is the question. This is what I want them to do. We would like to see the same demonstration 3 hours after sulfur hexafluoride gas is added to the fish tank. That's what we need to see. I want the gas added. You can have your little cardboard lid over it, no problem. I put the sulfur hexafluoride in, leave for 3 hours, and come back. We want to see that. And then put your little friggin' aluminum foil boat in there, and let's see what happens. And define a false equivalence fallacy from the Black Lagoon. Okay, let me stop right here just for a little bit. Any comments on this?
Feel free, whoever wants to go first.
No, I think it's really good explained here that the gas, it is still a gas. It will dissipate, I think. And although it might be a heavy gas, it will still leave the tank eventually, even with a cardboard lid on top of it.
Right. It'll increase its entropy, right?
Yep.
And fill the available space or the given volume. Exactly.
Yeah, the other thing you highlighted was that it's not natural gas, and obviously it's got a very high density, hence it's sitting in the tank after being pumped in from the pressurised canister that was used to wheel it into the classroom rather than an open top wheelbarrow. Nevertheless, you're still going to have the same effects of entropy. So yeah, it's a man-made gas, but it's a demonstration that's probably very short-lived. Well, certainly short-lived because of the law of entropy. We know precisely what will happen to that gas, considering that there's no bonds, there's no barrier, there's nothing stopping it from, over time, suffering the effects of entropy and dissipating into the rest of the room, which is precisely what would happen in about 3 hours, probably less, probably an hour, it would do the same thing. I'd be surprised if in half an hour they could still stick the aluminium boat in, actually, John, if having thought about it a little bit. I think half an hour would be enough for it to just not have the same effect, and you stick it in it would just go straight to the bottom.
Oh yeah, it's not going to be there even with 30 minutes.
But yeah, I think 3 hours is enough to, it's not an intolerable amount of time to ask. But yeah, I would want to see that demonstration too. Let's see that the effects of entropy don't suffer. It doesn't suffer the effects of entropy.
Right. All right. Anything else with that? That's an easy one.
Arwin, got anything? No? Arwin? Still here?
Might have stepped out, maybe.
Maybe he stepped out. Shout out to... Is it? I can't see it. Beer Can Girth for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. I'll pop your screen back up on John.
All right. Now
Right,
we're
yeah.
back to our favorite gas pressure gradients, right? I mean, this is what we get all the time. I don't know, that it must be part of the card that they get from the spinning space monkey committee or something. They issue out cards because everyone just bagak gas pressure gradients. I mean, why do you guys continue to wholesale dodge the very simple questions to support your fairy tale? See, this is the question. I'm going to say it twice. How do you have gas pressure without a container? In other words, how do you have gas pressure without a container? That's the question. The Bagak response, how do we have gas pressure gradients, isn't a response to this question. Number one, it's a question, it's not an answer. And number two, you're begging the question because we're trying to figure out how you have gas pressure. You're already assuming in your premise that gas pressure exists. So this is just another circle jerk. Answer this question. It's that simple. It's a double your pleasure fallacy. And it's not a reasoned response. If you think this is a reasoned response to this question up here, then you're a full-on ICD-10F72 code. Go ahead and look that up. So we're going to hold your hand. Which comes first? Gas pressure or X or gas pressure gradients delta X? Which comes first? I mean, you can't have delta X or a change in X before there's an X. In other words, before number two, one must frigging exist. So, back to the old question again. How do you have gas pressure without a container? Simple. You need to answer it. Anything on this?
Yeah, sometimes when it comes up in debate, you'd phrase it, where'd you get the pressure from? So when they start asking you how you can have a gas pressure gradient, you say, well, where'd you get the gas pressure from in the first instance? In other words, I had this with I'm not going to discredit the guy by highlighting who it was, but somebody on the panel just didn't get it. You know, he said, well, which comes first, gas pressure or gas pressure gradient? And it's like, I don't know, I'd have to think about this for a few minutes. And it's like, well, I'll dumb it down for you. It's like, which comes first? A red car or the car? Well, without a car, it can't be a red car. You know, it has to have the car first in order to have a red car. So asking whether or not you get the red bit before the car bit it's just so nonsensical. You've got to have the car first to have a red car. You've got to have gas pressure first before you can have a gas pressure gradient.
Simple.
Yeah,
All
it's the
right,
only way they're gonna go. I mean, there's nothing else they can say. So they will say this or the force, basically. Two ways out. They hope. They hope the gravity part or the gradient part will kill this argument.
It's never going away.
No.
Just to let you guys know, it's not going away. In fact, it's getting stronger. A lot of people are picking up on this because they can tie their shoes. So, gird your loins, baltards. All right, we ready to move on?
I think so. Is
Yep,
Arwin still
it's
on the
pretty
call?
easy.
Just before we do, are you still here, Arwin? Can't hear you if you are. He is still on the call. Hopefully he'll get his sound sorted. Maybe he's just nipped away for a second. Anyway, you're up, John. Let's continue.
All right, so let's go with the Be Kind to Dumb Animal Week. Let's deal with this question. Now, I didn't want to deal with it because I don't want to be answering their question, the second question, and let them beg the question. I don't want them to do that. However, somebody put me under pressure, no pun intended, to go into this subject. So we're going to answer the begging the question via red herring fallacy question number 2, the baller's question. And it's a legitimate question. I have no problems with this question. I like the question. It's the next logical question in the sequence. But you have to answer the question number 1 first. However, we're going to go ahead and answer question number 2. Okay,
Hold
you
on,
guys ready?
Stop. Sorry to interrupt. So I'm going to reiterate that. That's very important. So just for people who aren't following along, the first question is, where do you get the gas pressure in the first instance? Just to make it absolutely clear. So this is a first for John. This is a big occasion. Get your pens and papers ready if you want to write this down. However, up until now, correct me if I'm wrong, John, you have never disclosed this. I have. I've let it slip a couple of times.
I have in chats, in comment sections, a lot of people asked legitimately, and very respectful. They said, so how can, even if I give you the closed system, then what about the pressure gradient? So I explained it to them. Yeah, I did, and it was only on a few occasions, no more than 3 to 5 over the past 3 years.
That's good to me. That leads me nicely. So what you're saying is, at the point that your opponent, even though it's in text format in a comment section, at the point that your opponent says, okay, I will concede that there must be something for it to press upon. What a massive concession. Yeah, the necessary antecedent is the necessary antecedent. Great concession. But believe it or not, for those who are neutral in this argument, that is actually quite a big concession for a globe head. Any rational, normal person would instantaneously concede that you can't go to your garage and get tyre pressure without a tyre to put it in. The gas would expand out. You'd need something to actually, for the gas to press upon. But that, like I say, is a rational person. But at this point in the argument, just to build it up a bit more, because I think it's worthy of it, you'd still have to have that first part covered, which is the question, the main question: where do you get the gas pressure from in the first instance? Bearing in mind, there's an assertion, and we'll put it on screen again just for comedic effect, that we've got a vacuum of space. So, given that that's the assertion, we would like to know where the pressure comes from in the first place. Where's all this gas pressing on something in order to be gas pressure? That would need an answer first. But, so we can move on and I don't hold John up any further, in this instance we're in the hypothetical situation that a globe head would actually concede to the fact that you've got to have something to press upon in the first instance. Then we move on, only then, to how you have a gas pressure gradient. Sorry to drag that out, but I thought that was necessary.
No, that's okay. Yeah. And like I said, it's a legitimate, I don't have a problem with this question, because I asked that question myself immediately, right? But it's question number 2, not question number 1. So answer the first question, please. However, like I said, I was put under pressure, no pun intended, to answer this question. And like I said, it's a legitimate question, and it's even supported. Textbook of Medical Biochemistry. Thus, the diffusion of solute particles takes place down the concentration gradient. A pressure gradient with respect to partial pressure of gases. So basically, when you say the concentration gradient, you're saying it's synonymous with the pressure gradient. Same thing. Until uniform concentration is achieved. Now, in this context, uniform concentration is equilibrium, right? So, like I said, it's a good question and it's legitimate. And my answer is the difference between closed static systems versus closed dynamic systems. See, we live in a closed dynamic system, not a closed static system. And what do I mean when I say that? Right? So, this is an example of a closed static system. It's compressed air. That is, when this container is filled and the top is put on, that everything inside this container is going to reach equilibrium very quickly, right? There will be no pressure gradients in here. However, the only time you do get a pressure gradient is when you press this valve. That's the only time, and it's only going to be temporary. The gradient will only be temporary, and then pretty quickly, this is going to reach equilibrium again. And that's fine, but that's a closed static system. We're not talking about that. That's not what the Earth is. What is the Earth? Well, it's a closed dynamic system. And when we talk about dynamic systems, we're talking about cycles. Now, does everyone remember back in high school what cycles there are, the main cycles, what cycles there are with gases in relation to the Earth. Now, everyone knows the carbon cycle, right? You get this. This exists. And most of the carbon, the CO2 cycle, is where does it originate from? Well, it's down here on the surface. That's where most of the gas pressure is. And then it's going to cycle itself, right? You get a lot of photosynthesis, both from marine photosynthesis and terrestrial photosynthesis, right? Everyone knows this cycle. So it's a cycle. In other words, you know this, guys, right? What's the next one? The nitrogen cycle. Same type of deal here, right? Most of the pressure is down or created on the surface, and it cycles. Too easy, right? What's the next one? Can anyone guess the next one on the panel?
Hydrological cycle.
The water cycle.
Right.
The hydrologic or the water cycle, exactly. So we're getting the same thing here, right? The cycles, this is a dynamic system. The Earth is a dynamic system. It is not a closed static system. That is the answer. So, I've answered this question for you. I shouldn't get this question anymore. Correct? All right. Oh, I forgot about this. Ryan. Now listen, folks. And this has nothing to do with the closed static system or anything like that. This is a side note. If you are a ball-tard spinning space monkey and you're walking down the street and you happen to see Ryan or anybody else out here on his driveway putting air pressure in his tire, creating gas pressure, you have to run up and admonish him and tell him what does he think he's doing and to get rid of the tire, because he doesn't need that to have gas pressure. Just so you know. Just keeping it real for you. Okay? All right. Any questions on that before I move on?
No, Ranty made the same point in a video he made recently, probably in the last 6 weeks or so, which is to say, you can't go to a garage and then say to the person in the garage, you know what, I'd really like all of the cushy benefits of gas pressure, because they're really useful, they soak up the bumps as I go over them in my car. The bit I'd like to avoid is the tyre. That's really expensive. Shout out to Paul Hall for the super chat. So I don't want the expensive tyre because it's only 20 pence in the petrol station for the gas pressure, right? I can get that really cheap. It's just the tyre. So can you give me the gas pressure but without the tyre? Yeah, I think you'd have a few mechanics looking at you strangely.
Yeah, they're going to call security.
But that's what we have on screen, essentially. We have, apparently, according to the heliocentric spinning ball space monkey religion, gas pressure existing without the tyre. So again, there's no barrier, there's just a much lower pressure system. So the gas that we see, these clouds, the high pressure gas, would want to dissipate into the low pressure vacuum. So again, this is just nonsense. The black bit that they say is a vacuum, outer space, is fake.
I didn't want to throw you guys with bringing Ryan on. What about the point between, and this the important point, the point of the question was the difference between closed static systems versus closed dynamic systems.
Yeah, do you get into that? Do I need to present you again?
No. I just didn't want to let that point go because that was the main point. I realized I threw Ryan in there at the end, and that kind of threw everybody. So I guess that was pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah, we live in a dynamic system. There's more gases being produced at the ground where the gases start their cycle. And obviously there aren't any production plants for the carbon cycle in the middle of the sky, halfway up. So we have the main concentration of gases being produced at the ground. That's why you have the highest pressure. It is as simple as that. So yeah, I see what you're saying, John. You might throw the audience slightly by showing a static system like you showed with your gas canister blowing on a VCR or whatever at the beginning, which is, yes, it's going to have an equilibrium within that canister until you press the valve. But that aside, that's not what we live in. We're not living in a gas canister. It's not a very simplistic system. It's incredibly complex, and it has all three of the cycles that you've just gone through, and they are going to have the main point, the main concentration at the ground level. So why do you have a gradient? Well, because we have cycles. We live in a dynamic system.
And by the way, gases are also being absorbed at ground level, mind you. A lot of them, actually. In chemical reactions.
Sure, all of the activities going on at ground level. Beyond that, doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile. That's where the activity isn't taking place, right?
Yep.
So, there you go. Gradient, simple explanation.
All right, can we move?
I think so.
Okay, remember I said that the first argument, the begging the question, little circle jerk when they said, our claim is that the atmosphere can't exist without a container and walk outside. I need to take that back. This is the stupidest argument I've ever seen. I first seen this on Discord, and this is the argument. Atmospheric pressure and gas pressure are not the same. Yep. This is the stupidest one, hands down. I mean, this takes the cake. Listen up. Look up atmo. Just atmo, the prefix here. Atmo means air. Air is gas. Gas pressure is air pressure. Therefore, atmospheric pressure is gas pressure. To have gas or air pressure, you must have a container. Next block of instruction, how to say the in the early afternoon. I'm going to stop right there.
Well,
that's going to aggravate me.
Well, it's just a justification for the religious assertion when we went over the begging the question fallacy earlier. You just go outside. Well, this is basically the same thing, isn't it? You define something as... I know you're saying the definition doesn't meet their requirements, but in their mind, when they put this argument forward, oh, well, it's the definition that meets my fundamentalist belief that's the one we'll be using here. And that would be atmospheric pressure, of course, until you take a dump all over that. Like you've just done.
Yeah, this is really bad. I can't believe I even have to answer to this. I mean, come on, people. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Well, we'll just do it with the diagram, because we haven't done it a couple of times for at least 5 minutes. So on screen, we've got the graphic of the Earth. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be described by them or anybody else as the atmosphere, correct? You can't see, just say yes.
Yes.
Right, and would I be correct in asserting that atmosphere is... gas pressure?
Nah, atmospheric pressure is not gas pressure, man.
All right, what is it then?
Atmospheric pressure has a different definition than gas pressure.
So it's not gas pressure.
I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah, you have to give up this facade. So I'll try once more. So correct me if I'm wrong. What we see on screen on the fantasy ball Earth is an atmosphere or atmospheric pressure, correct?
Yep.
And that would be gas with pressure.
Yep.
And in order for it to be gas with pressure, it would need the antecedent of a container.
Yes.
It doesn't have one. The picture on screen, it's just got a vacuum of space next to the gas pressure. So ipso facto, this is nonsense. This can't possibly be real. Even though it's a graphic and we know this isn't real. I mean, the thing they say it is can't be real.
Well, the atmospheric pressure is they bring gravity on because it's air, the weight of the air on top of weight of air on top of weight of air, right? That's the whole thing. That's also in the definition, and then they basically claim that John is cherry picking some stuff out of that definition to suit his argument, but it doesn't matter.
Well, until you get
need
to the
the container.
top. Until you get to the top, right? So it's the pressure of the stuff above it, right? Until you get to the very top. So there's going to be a point where there's still gas pressure, but it's next to a vacuum. Even if they say it's gradiated down to the lowest of lowest pressures, well, it's still pressure and therefore still requires the necessary antecedent of a container. And what's above it, you say? From your vantage point, relatively speaking, you look up into the sky and you see the gradient, if such a thing was possible, and at the very topmost top of that gradient, there's still a gas pressure. And what's it pressing on? Oh, a vacuum, you say, Johnny Globehead? No. It would disperse into that, as per entropy.
Yeah, and you would think that the layers on top would just be more heavyweight to keep everything down. I mean, not that.
We're gonna deal with the blanket of these gases here in a moment.
Okay, that's good.
You move on, or have you got anything to add, Darwin? Take that.
Alrighty then.
Let's go.
Took a break.
Okay. The next one, you got. Are we showing? Or are we sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Water pressure, right? The oceans have a pressure gradient, but no container. Okay. For the 13,768th time, number one, false equivalence fallacy. Just because liquids and gases are arbitrarily classified as fluids, water, liquid, is not a gas. Number two, water pressure also requires a container. It just doesn't require a top or a lid, a full enclosure, because of the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room difference between water, liquids, and gases. What's the elephant in the room? Let's keep that rhetorical just for a few seconds here. Number three, gases, the atmosphere, like I said, we're going to get to this, don't lay on top of each other for crying out loud. That's antithetical to gas behavior. So let's take a look at this. Pull up the University of Purdue University. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Okay. This is giving the microscopic views of solid, liquids, and gases. So solids, liquids, and gases. Let's take a look at this. So you got solids over here, right? They're pretty much standing fast. They're vibrating in place pretty tightly. Then we go to a liquid. They're pretty much standing fast too, and they have a little bit more vibration than the solids. As opposed to gases, can somebody please tell me or show me how this is laying on top of each other? So get your head out of your four-point of contact, people, and stop with these ridiculous Elmer Fudd arguments. You contradict yourself with every other statement. And you ask me, well, why am I getting frustrated, right? I'm starting to get fired up now. So what causes water pressure or gas pressure? Well, a container, the seafloor and the sides. The seas and the oceans don't have to be fully enclosed because of the false equivalence fallacy here failed to take into account the elephant in the room, and we're going to deal with that right now. The water, here's the elephant. The water has intermolecular bonds, hydrogen bonds. Gases don't have intermolecular bonds. That's one of the big differences between gases and liquids. Ergo, or therefore, water is prevented from escaping and reaching the entropic degree that gases attain. Right? So let's go to the University of Wisconsin Chemistry Department. Listen closely. The entropies of gases are much larger than those of liquids, which are larger than those of solids. Right? He's lowballing you right here. Their exponential magnitude's greater. And everyone knows this. If you offered any of the above arguments, please report to third grade 2 weeks earlier next year. Okay? I say again, bye-bye now to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. Thanks for your ear. Have a nice day. All right. Anything here?
Yeah, it's just a summary of what you've just said, which is to say it's a false equivalence. So you can't have a comparison between things that have absolutely no connection to one another. They're bouncing randomly in all direction and off the walls of the container, unlike liquid, which has bonds.
Yep. Yeah, it shows it all, right? don't think that it needs any explanation. But they have this double think and double speak going on, and it's Orwellian, I think.
Sorry about that. I was going off here, and my mic was muted. And I hear people talking over me. I'm sitting there, wait a second. Yeah, I was muted. So listen, I don't know when they teach this anymore. I can't remember. Was it 3rd or 4th grade? I don't know when did they even teach this anymore?
I don't think so, because we have people that don't get this, right?
Oh,
Right.
I was certainly taught that in high school. Yes, absolutely. They do teach it.
So in high school, they did. I swore I learned this in grade school. But come on, people. I mean, we know that there's no intermolecular bonds. Gases are flying around everywhere. That's gas behavior.
And I'm
Right?
glad too that it does that way, because I cook on gas, and if the gas was on, then it would never disperse. It would never get rid of it. I need someone to get rid of the gas that I've spilled, basically. So
Exactly. Especially if you're eating a bean dinner. You're happy that this is taking place right over here.
that's a totally different example, but yeah.
So whereabouts are we at in the presentation? Because there's going to be a special announcement for the keyboard warriors at some stage, isn't there?
We're at the end of the presentation. I already gave the ending right here with thanks for your ear. Have a nice day. That's the ending. That's it.
Perfect. Okay, so at this stage, this show has actually had the link to a hangout which I've set up for any member of the public who wants to challenge any of the I don't want to say ideas, facts, let's make it clear, that have been put forward here this evening. Then there is a link in the info box below this show. So if you want to join, feel free to join. You will be in a containment area, shall we say, to keep it polite, and we'll hopefully have some civil guests join. Hopefully we can chat amongst ourselves and see if any takers are in the chat. I've noticed quite a few people in there saying they want to join, so we shall see if that actually happens. Rob V, feel free.
And there are some rules, right? No swearing. Make sure you stay on topic. Be respectful, and you'll get respect back. And don't try to change the subject. Make your claim, support it. Don't give us 30 claims. We don't want to hear a story. Give us your claim, simply support it. Right? Don't be just galloping me or any of the members of the panel. I'm going to take a break here for a second, and I'll be right back. Okay?
Yeah, I don't mind if there's a little bit of dead air at this point, because obviously we may not get anybody join. If so, there'll be a few pauses, and then we'll end up rounding out this show. But
well, I'm highly confident. I'm highly confident that you'll be able to handle it.
Oh yeah, I'm not concerned about people joining in your absence. You feel free, take yourself a little break.
I'm getting a lot of echo. Well, now it's over right now. All right, we're good.
We got Arwin,
yeah, sorry for my absence, guys. I'm kind of cooking at the same time, so
that's all good. I was just about to say we'll never have dead air. We've got Arwin.
Was it on gas, Arwin, or is it on electric?
Yeah, it's on gas. Definitely gas pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, probably best not to open the valve and test this out. It will definitely fill the space, but you'll also die.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't ignite it right away, yeah.
But yeah, as I say,
but yes,
to all keyboard warriors,
gas.
I'll plug again. To any keyboard warriors, there is a link in the info box. Let's see if we've got anybody that wants to challenge anything that's been said here. Might do some shout outs in the meantime, rather than the dead air. So big shout out to Slam Free Poetry for hitting the super chat. There's Rob V wants to join. He's calling Nathan Chicken. Well, you have an opportunity. There is a link in the info box. Partial recall. Massive shout out to you as well for the super chat. Really, really appreciate your support. Thank you very much indeed. I think I shouted out all the rest of the other super chats that came and managed to weasel them into the show. Let's shout out some of the guests who've joined us. John Watson, massive thanks for being here. Paul Hall, super chatter as well. Thank you very much for the super chat. Ute, nice to see you. YouTube Surgeon General. Yeah, Apocalypse of Jonah. Hope I haven't said that incorrectly. Lottie says, nice to have you. Slam Free Poetry. I think you super chatted as well. Thank you very much indeed. Bible Literalist, nice to see you. Dan74, thanks for being here. Michael Hemming, good to see you also. Thanks for being in our chat. Conspiracy Cats, good to have you. NASA says, thank you for being here. LLB Store, thanks for being in our chat. 255 people watching. I'm sure it went past 260. A lot of people watching. Thank you very much to all of you who've joined us. If you're watching on a smart TV or something and not in chat, thank you very much for being here. Andrews Ace, good to see you. Nummy Num, thanks for being here. Randy.
Nathan, I see a comment from Sleeping Warrior that the link is not working.
Ah, I'm glad somebody
Is that
commented.
something?
It should be. I've updated it. Let's just double check.
Was a while ago, but
I'll recut it and paste it from the Hangout. Although, I must admit today on the Hangout, or yesterday, Friday, whatever day it is, lose track.
it's Saturday today.
Yeah, so yesterday the Hangout did have a slight issue with people getting in, I think. But I'll repaste it. There we go. It was a trial run. It might be a failure from the off. We shall see. Hopefully,
hopefully it works now.
I'll paste it into the link again, so hopefully in the info box. I could just paste it straight into the chat. There's no harm in doing that, I suppose. I just had to put quote marks around it as well to get it to work from the chat, so I'll try that. Mark, paste, quote mark, go. Let's see if that works. Well, I'll publish the link. Hopefully it'll work. Hopefully we'll get a few guests joining. Not we'll round.
Yeah,
We'll
well, a couple have tried to try the link, so you would think that they would want to come on then.
Could be me. Could be a fault with the link. If so, it's going to be a slightly dull ending. 5 minutes of not much talking while we have people trying a link that doesn't work. It's definitely published correctly. It's published the same way I've done it for a huge amount of time. I suppose I could just try another Hangout, as we have got a massive audience to hopefully cater to. So I'll try another Hangout just in case it is an issue. That Hangout. And the other call. Okay, so I've started a new Hangout, and I'll put 10 more seconds and I'll have the link in the public bit. Seconds for the audience because there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah, I'm curious who will come up and challenge these arguments. I'm really interested in something new for a change.
Okay, so that link is there now. If you're watching on the live stream, just refresh your page. Might be that it worked, but no one refreshed. So refresh the page and hopefully we'll get a quick response from somebody who has tried in the Hangout link. If we've got no joy, this will be the end of the show. And I'll say stick around if you're in the Nathan Oakley stream, as we will have a short after show.
Well, I believe that Conspiracy Cat is also in the chat. Maybe he would like to join and tell about his gas pressure argument.
Well, we've already got his answer. To quote Conspiracy Cats, without the container, there can be no pressure. So I'm pretty firm in my understanding that Cats understands the paradox here.
Yeah. Okay, so nothing new then.
No.
Disappointing.
If I don't know, if someone could let me know if they can attempt to join from the chat, that'd be very much appreciated. If it was Tony, then if you can try Tony, just to let me know if it works or not. Because if it doesn't, there's no point in us hanging around with this show. Should work. It's worked for 2 years. I don't see why it wouldn't work now.
Well, you're under pressure.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
That or nobody wants to join.
That could be the case, yeah. Well, maybe it was clear enough to basically solve all the problems that people had with it.
2 more minutes if we don't get anybody joining. That's precisely what I'll be declaring.
Hey, I'm back. Hey, Adam's here.
Oh,
Oh,
hi,
it's
Adam.
QE here.
Yes,
I
indeed.
was hoping Johnny Glowhead. I wanted an autograph off Johnny Glowhead.
Get stuffed.
Ah, that link's not working, Nate. I've just got in, mate. That I thought I'd try that as I heard you struggling, but yeah, it just keeps spinning.
Oh, really? That's frustrating.
Why is it's not working?
Mm-mm.
Does it have something to do with the initial hangout when it went down?
No,
I'll give
yes,
you
I
one more-
made
I'll give you one
another
more
hangout.
attempt. I'll give you one more attempt while you're chatting amongst yourselves.
Well, Anthony tries to join now, I believe. So hopefully he will connect.
So, did you listen to the presentation, Adam, or did you just get back?
I literally got in at the point there was those little pictures of gas molecule, water molecules, and the solid molecule. So
That's the
I
end.
assume you were talking about the relative differences in intermolecular bonds, but I don't know.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was doing. Yeah, we were getting past the. Yeah, well, the atmosphere lays on top of each other. Yeah. Okay. That's what we were doing. The main parts were I went over Boyle's gas law and the ideal gas law, which it's just a generalization of Boyle's gas law, and we were pulling out the V, the volume part, because you can't have volume without a container, right? So a lot of it was that, and just the nonsensical arguments that come up against it. You're all caught up.
Not far off then. No, the ideal gas law is the one that I like. It's the one that really does support the argument. It's the one that they'll quote in their physics, but it's not applicable to reality. Or if you did, I think I did this a while back, but if you're going to do that, then V has to be substituted mathematically for infinity in the equation, which obviously ruins it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know how you can argue against this. I mean, essentially, it all boils down to exactly what Nathan was saying, and Ryan. We had Ryan on here pumping up his gas or pumping up his bike tire, right? It's so ridiculous that you have to, for them to prove their argument, they have to show gas pressure. They have to show a tire pressure without the tire. You're not going to be. It's absolutely nonsensical to even say it. So
the nearest they've got on that, from what I can see, is the approximations they have atmospherically, and this kind of probably relates more to gradient pressure and how you can have that within a contained system.
We already went over that.
Yeah, but they'll use what's called isolated pockets. So it's just a finite area before the physics can equate that they'll use to describe certain areas that are, whilst not are obviously under the same volumetric conditions, but they're not under necessarily the same energy conditions. And that particularly relates to atmospheric analysis of it. But again, it's even within itself, as I understand it atmospherically and from a weather point of view, it's admitted that this is a rough approximation and can't be held in any or expressed in any finite areas for computer modeling purposes. So it's not necessarily any form of reality, but it's how certain pockets are used within computer systems you to try and use the ideal gas laws to model atmosphere. But again, like I say, it's all.
How can they do that? What's the V?
Well, again, and this is the point: is if they are writing this even from a computer program point of view, at some point you do have to define your parameters, don't you, for the computer program? So I've not looked into this, but you would imagine that they have at some point defined an outer perimeter for the ideal gas law mathematics to work within. Like I said, if you were to be honest with the mathematics, then the only V you can put in is the volume of the universe.
Yeah, you can't get around it with volume. There's no way out of this, right? You could theoretically come up with a volume, but that's theoretically or conceptually. That doesn't help you.
Right, got a last attempt. Switched accounts to open a Hangout on a different account and then reposted the link for that. So if you want to refresh your page and try one last time, if not, that's going to be the end of the main live show. Saying that for about 10 minutes though, so.
Yeah, it's a yeoman effort though. I think it has something to do with that, with it going down. It has to, because all the Hangouts work. You do it every day.
Right. Weird. Hopefully, like I say, I've stuck the link in the info box if you want to refresh. Hopefully that'll try. Or someone will try and join.
Is Anthony out there in the chat?
Guinea pig, hopefully he'll try and let us know.
Is Anthony out there in the chat?
He was trying, but I haven't seen him in the chat anymore. So
Is there anyone you know in the chat to just have him try to come in, say hello, and then they can vamoose?
Yeah, maybe biblical literalist, Paula, maybe, if she wants to.
Yeah, just come in and say hi, just to let us know that it's working, and then you don't have to stay if you don't want.
Or she's looking for the link, she says.
Could be the
So how's the weather?
info box.
Where?
Let me tell you, it was really warm out here for the past couple of days, and this afternoon it snowed. So
That's fine.
yeah, it's the crazy time of the year. We get a lot of craziness in Missouri this time of year. So I'm just trying to kill time. What else is there to talk about?
High pressure and low pressures going on?
Yeah. There's high pressure and low pressure action going on.
So where's the equilibrium then?
So where's the container? I know.
Did the snow stay, or is it white? Or?
No. That snow, as soon as it hit the ground, it melted. Yeah, it's been too warm here. Ground temperature is way too high. It's not gonna. It would take a mammoth snowstorm. Now, not to say that hasn't happened before. I mean, this is the time of year when we get dumped on like 10 inches, 12 inches of snow. Yeah, this is the time. But it would take a lot to overcome that ground temperature.
Not looking good. I think Paula's tried and it doesn't work still, so that's probably going to be my opportunity. I'll wait to see if she did actually refresh the page first before she tried the link in the info box. If so, yes.
I'll just try it again, Nath.
No, it's all right.
Refreshing it and linking it. It's just spinning, pal.
That's too bad, man.
That's too bad. I mean, we will continue this conversation on the after show, but I think with that, I will say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to. Let's get it right. So we've got Adam, Quantum Eraser, Betty, and Arwin for making this live BALLBUSTERS possible. Also, a massive thank you for your patience in the live stream, for putting up with the technical issues at the first show that didn't quite happen, and of course for putting up with the dead air while we were waiting for a Hangout that didn't work to work. Trial run gone wrong. But nevertheless, you can't have gas pressure without a container. Once again, a massive thank you to all of the BALLBUSTERS panel and you in the live audience. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com if you want to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
छाया आसमां देखो झूमता
Done.
Cool. So maybe next time. That's a bummer that it didn't work.
Yeah, but
Maybe next time we can open it up at the end, because they're gonna most of the people are gonna catch on that this is how we're gonna run things. So maybe we could do it next time.
Hold on. Ebon's just joined, so it does work.
The full link doesn't work. You have to remove some of the URL.
Why is it doing that?
So if you just post that, that'll work.
Right, I'm going to go and get myself sorted, guys, and I'll come back in a second if you're still about that.
Oh, we'll still be about, Adam. Yeah.
So what you the second post is what's actually posted, and that's what causes.
Oops.
And that'll work.
Show's
that
over.
worked.
See.
Yes.
Has it done that before, Nathan?
Yeah, the last couple of shows, so it's clearly, I don't know why when it produces. Oh, got a lot of feedback. When it produces the link, it just seems to produce it with some nastiness attached to it. I don't know why. So why is
both
it?
said
Can you, Ebon?
Yes, no, that was me. That was Arwen.
Can you do me
I'm done making dinner now.
Can you do me a favour? Hold on, Arwen,
Sure.
sorry.
What?
Dinner's really important and all. We are still recording though, so can you just drop me a message with an explanation for what I need to do each day? Otherwise, that's going to be a recurring problem.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
It's busy and it's loud. I'm just listening in. I just wanted to make sure the link will work. So I'll get back out.
Okay,
Good job,
cool.
guys.
But yeah, if you can let me know on Skype, just a brief explanation for what you did to get it to work, and then I'll pre-do that before I post it in the link for the debates. Otherwise, I'll never have any guests.
Sure, will do.
Brilliant.
Later,
Thank
guys.
you very much. Well, at least we know it worked.
Yeah, like I said, that's too bad. However, it'll be good. Maybe for the next BALLBUSTERS we do, because we want to keep it subject reference. We'll just open it up to what the next subject is and the gas pressure. So both of those.
Yeah, indeed. So in other words, when someone comes onto the next show, because it will be working next time, they'll have the opportunity to cover gas pressure if they choose to.
Yeah, that's up to you, Nathan. Do you want to open it up? I was figuring that it would be best to keep it, subject oriented. But
definitely.
I don't know.
No, absolutely. Obviously, I've got an open debate for random flat Earth talk in general, or random bullproof in general, whichever way you want to look at it. But no, it'd have to be specific to the subject that was covered on the night. So in this instance, obviously, if they came on and just said, well, actually, I want to talk about 8 inches, you're like, no. Gas pressure without a container. That's what we're talking about. If you've got an objection to that, that's what's on the table, and that alone. If not, sod off.
Cool. Okay.
So yeah, but there we go. It was a trial run anyway. It was a bit last minute, but that wasn't. That was an unavoidable thing. Even if I'd have practiced it and had somebody join and check the Hangout, it would have worked like it worked for Ebon if I'd have posted it in Skype. Because that's how people have been joining the debates, but they've only been managing to get in on Skype, which is weird. But on Skype, it turns it into like a little button with a G on it. Whereas presumably when people are just cutting and pasting the link, it doesn't do the same thing. But hopefully Ebon will get back to me before Monday and let me know what I need to do to make that not happen again.
Yeah, and maybe before you do that, do it earlier in the presentation. Maybe say we're almost done with the presentation, and then you don't get that dead air maybe in between, because maybe people will join and then we can go right to the panel or to the people in the Hangouts.
Sure.
Right?
I mean, yeah, I would have probably suspected something if I'd have said it halfway through the show and then there was still an empty panel by the time the presentation was finished. I'd be expecting 3 people to be in there arguing amongst themselves over the top of, the sound that's coming through. But that didn't happen. It's just one of those. It was a last minute idea, but I still think it's an excellent idea. Like John said, I know it was your idea, Betty, but John was saying, you can easily quickly degenerate into an echo chamber of your own making.
Yep. Yeah, sure. Yeah. You can invite people in this way and still interact with them. without people sniping each other and stuff. So I think that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I hope it'll add to the shows in future. In other words, you get a presentation, you get all the chat trolls saying what they say, and then at the end, like we tried today, you get the opportunity to actually come and challenge it. And you never know, there might be something born out of the conversation, holes picked in the argument. I doubt it. I mean, with the show today, nobody would have come on with anything good. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. No one's ever going to end up winning an argument about gas pressure without a container. It's
Well,
just
maybe
never gonna
other
happen.
people that have questions maybe can also come up, and you can also have flat earthers that don't understand the argument as well, or want to have some more explained to them, also come up and join, right? It doesn't have to be only the ballers side that can join, but also the other side.
I do like the ballers' assertions in this regard. So I've heard more than once now that a gas pressure gradient violates the second law of thermodynamics. I just love that. I think that's so priceless. You feel like ruffling their hair and going, "Oh, go on, get the fuck out of here, you little bastard."
I could see you doing that, Nathan. You know,
Yeah, you fuzzy
smiling.
little sod. Go on.
Yeah, it's like a cat playing with a mouse. Also, I think that's the picture that I get from it. Yeah.
Go on and tucking yourself out somewhere else.
Yeah.
You little sod.
You little sods. Go on, get out of it. Second law of thermodynamics violation. So, I tell you what, I'll walk into Yale and I'll go, you know what, I've got the best ever violation of this natural law. Oh, really? What is it? You just walk outside. got a gradient. That violates the second law. What do you mean it doesn't? What do you mean? Security, get off me! Get off my colour!
Yeah. You'd figure the people that came up with the second law of thermodynamics, it was second law was codified, back in the late 1800s, right? You'd figure that the atmosphere was probably the atmosphere still. You'd figure they'd say, "Oh, wait a second, this is a second law of thermodynamics violation," right?
That does pose a good question. Why has it never been? Why is it us that's doing this? I mean, it's a gem. I love it. It's great. It'll smash every single globe head that ever brings the topic up. Yep. Normally us bringing the topic up, shove it in their face.
We're bringing it up.
But why hasn't it? That's the question.
I don't know. Like I said, this was the argument that converted me in less than 2 seconds. It was so funny because I was, doing my thing. I was on a forum and, just bashing people. And I guess I can only imagine what this guy was doing in the background. He was like, go ahead, keep on going with your bad self. Because he knew, because I was talking about the second law all the time, right? Or the laws of thermodynamics. I was always bringing them up. They're always, the second law of thermodynamics comes up in any discussion regarding science, pseudoscience, anything. And I could just imagine this guy just sitting back there, just waiting, biding his time, right? And him asking me that question. And the question was, how can you have gas pressure next to a vacuum? Right? That's all it was. That's all he said. And I could just imagine him laughing because he knew that I was up against it. There was nothing I could say. I said, I think I did say, "Oh my God." Right?
Was it in direct relation to the Earth and stuff? Did he point you to that, or was it just that sentence then?
No, he was thinking that. I wasn't. Like I said, that flat Earth. I think I was in an evolution forum because second law always comes up. They always butcher it too. No one knows what they're talking about when the second law is brought up, and I'm definitely not going to talk about it now. However, this wasn't in regards to anything related to the flat Earth. Now, from his perspective, you could damn sure bet it was, right? But from my perspective,
yeah, but he didn't point you to it. It was not in the sentence itself, or
no.
But that's the beauty of it, right? He didn't need to. He didn't need to. That's why John's saying he sat back in his chair, right, with the biggest gesture grin on his face. He knew precisely what he was doing.
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm. And he knew that I couldn't. What am I going to say? I ain't gonna say anything, and in 2 seconds, I knew the Earth was flat, non-spinning, domed, and geocentric. I knew it. I knew it as absolute fact just from that argument. Just from his, he didn't have an argument. It was just a question. Just from his point, I was done.
Just by asking the question. Yeah.
Just by asking the question. That's all he did. And like I said, I could see him in the back laughing. I can't even remember who his name or what his name is.
Famous physicist must be.
No, this was just a wisecracker trying to get, trying to weasel in some screwed up argument as usual. I've seen millions of them. You wouldn't believe half of them. But he asked the question. That was it, man. It was it for me.
So that was the first time that you conceded anything.
Yeah, I had to concede that. There. What am I going to say? What
Well,
am I going to?
all the other things that the other people said, but yeah, you didn't.
What am I going? I'm not going to sit there and make stuff up. I can't get around. You can't get around this. And like I said in the beginning of the presentation, even incoherent first graders. Ryan there pumping up his tire. It's over. Ryan would laugh at Brian Cox with this argument. He'd laugh at him playing Candy Crush.
Yeah.
And Cox couldn't do anything. I mean, he could dance around, maybe provide some word salad, but at the end of the day, you have to have a container to have gas pressure. Period. End of story. Yep. It's a beautiful, like I said, it's a beautiful argument. It's easy. Everyone understands it. And it's becoming my only argument because I'm tired of going on and on with crayon munchers with their feeble Elmer Fudd sophistry. I just start out with this argument because it starts and ends here. To me, that's just personally. That's what I feel myself.
I totally agree. I think it does start and end there. The more I think about it, the more it's true. It is the linchpin of the entire system. Everything about it hinges around the vacuum of space. It is an absolute necessity for that religious belief. The globe Earth needs the vacuum of space. Space is everything in that model.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anything that you get the usual gravity, but we've already debunked that.
This is linked to
then,
gravity, almost. Yeah.
Even then, like you said, Nathan, I think we were talking about this before the show. When I tell them, I'll give you both. Newtonian gravity and Einsteinian. I'll give you both at full force, right? It still makes no difference. None. It will never. Gravity or any concept of gravity will never overcome entropy. It's not going to happen. So, I don't know, man.
I agree with you there, John. It's what I keep on saying as well.
Concession from the ether? What was that? What's that I hear?
What?
I think you just came out of nowhere and like, I agree with you.
Are we still live?
Yeah, we're in the after show.
All right.
So not live, but people are going to hear you. So
Wee.
Be careful. We need some more bird landings.
Do you watch D-Marble, Arwin?
Sorry, what?
You watch D-Marble?
Not really.
Okay, it's just he had a taste of this argument on his last live stream. As soon as I heard him say it, I was like sharing the link with the BALLBUSTERS stream, so he would have got it. He just weren't paying attention at that particular moment. But yeah, he's explaining exactly that. It's just nice hearing other people talking about exactly this. How can you have gas pressure without a container?
Yeah, it's spreading.
Right.
And even the people in Discord are getting bored by the argument because, this gas pressure again.
Yeah, because it doesn't go away.
Yeah, they don't want to go there anymore because it's done. And
It doesn't
no
go away. It doesn't go away because it's in a container.
It's contained, yeah. That's true.
I mean, this and R, it's the same thing about 3 months, maybe 6 months ago. I can't remember, I lose track of time. But they had the same sort of reaction to the request to prove R. In other words, it seemed to be, it happened the other night. Do you remember, John, with Arwin? You were trying to make, it might have even been this argument. And it got to a point where Arwin just went, well, I'll just prove the radius. And that cuts the legs out of any argument.
Yeah, it does. It does because I'm just begging the question fallacy with it, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Well, that's the thing. This entire time I've put the ball model on screen. Well, we're begging the question with the graphic, right? We're assuming the sphere radius. That's all there. We're just talking about the gas pressure on the begging the question fallacy. So, that, but it's the same you could do it with any of the housekeeping questions all the way through to the molten iron core. They're phrased in such a way that they're not even assertions, are they? They're like they're the same principle as the guy who told you about the gas pressure. Exactly the same principle, which is to say that you can ask any of the housekeeping questions with a big smirk on your face, and you can't even be guilty of making any assertions with it.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, because they all contain a fallacy. Right? Like I said before, if you know the truth, then any argument that comes up against it, it's like a game. Because even pretty intelligent people come up with good arguments. So it's like a game to find out where the flaw is. Because there is a flaw, you just have to find it. So that takes patience, especially the longer-winded arguments. So you got to pull out all the principles and then evaluate whether because there's some type of fallacy in there somewhere. Somebody's assuming something. Right?
Yeah, that's been my basic principle since the beginning. So as soon as did you just say once you realise the truth, or did you put some sort of caveat like that in, or did I just imagine that?
No, once you realise the truth, once you know the truth,
right?
Exactly.
Exactly. So from the first moment when I was shaking my wife and going, the Earth's flat, right? In other words, the moment I realised the truth, it didn't really matter what argument came up, because I knew there'd be an inherent flaw in it somewhere or another, and I didn't need the intricate details. So I'm sure I've said this many times, but one of my first videos was there are no satellites, because the logic behind it is instantaneously there. Space is fake. Space doesn't exist anymore. That's just a nonsense story. So therefore, you can go forth without very much knowledge at all when you make certain assertions like satellites aren't real. Now, I'd probably rephrase that now to say the satellites asserted to be in the vacuum of space are not real. In other words, people might produce a balloon cam like it's some sort of equivalent.
Exactly. Exactly right. Be careful with your claims, because it came out again. And I think it's just because everyone says it. They say space is fake. No. That's not the argument. The vacuum of space is fake.
Yeah, outer space. If you just say space, well, I occupy a certain amount of space right now, that's not fake. But the idea of the sky vacuum, that's why I like those two words put together, because that's what we're talking about, the sky and it being a vacuum. And that idea immediately goes out the window and anything attached to it. So back then I actually didn't have this understanding of the second law of thermodynamics violation that is the sky vacuum. But ultimately speaking, I still recognised that all of the things that hinge around a sphere Earth. Now, back then it would have been the idea that you'd have to have a body, this satellite, falling around the sphere Earth with their ideas of, orbital motion. Well, as soon as you realise that you're on a flat plane, that immediately disappears. That cannot work. That cannot be. Whatever they're claiming about it's got to be unreal. So it was really easy to go, satellites, fake. Like I say, now it would be a slightly different debunking of it, but this is 4 years ago. But what my point was, going off on a bit of a tangent, my point was that once you understand the reality of your situation, you are definitely on a flat plane. You definitely have gas pressure. You can therefore go forth with certain assumptions with pretty high confidence when you make them. But the rhetoric, and this was the overall point, the rhetoric that they present you with wouldn't need or wouldn't ever be in a position where we just have to find whatever the flaw is in any given argument. It would just be true. In other words, you'd have the complete polar opposite. You know, we would never be able to undo anything they asserted because it was true. The polar opposite of that being that we can debunk anything that's asserted about the heliocentric system because it's so patently false.
Right. Yep.
Well, there's another thing that they say on Discord, I just remembered, is that you don't know what entropy or the second law of thermodynamics is. Then they go into all the things that you claim that it is wrong, basically. Remember that, John? That they do that also.
Well, people have been saying that. People have been saying that for 10 years. I mean, yeah, they could say whatever they want. That's an ipsy-dixit fallacy. Well, I know what the second law of thermodynamics. I know all the laws of the thermodynamics. So, it's just a claim. You know, it's just a baseless claim. So, what don't I understand about the laws of thermodynamics?
Yeah. Well, say to me what the sun is then.
What's the sun? I really don't know.
I mean, remember that guy? I mean, he was on the show a couple of times on Nathan's show, I think, and he said, "What's the sun? You don't know what entropy is because
it's an optical phenomena." Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I don't really care. What does that have to do with my argument?
Yeah, well, that he was something about the sun also violating the second law of thermodynamics, and that.
How does it do that?
Depends on what you presume it to be.
Yeah. Well, what's the violation?
Well, the violation is, I suppose, that in the narrative of the mainstream, that the further away you go from the sun, the more hotter it gets.
Oh, right. Yeah, but that's my argument.
Yeah.
I already have that presentation already done. According to their narrative is a second law of thermodynamics violation. However, the sun in a vacuum, no pun intended, the sun just with the sun, if you say, well, the sun, that's not an argument. You're just saying, you know, an object or whatever it is. That's not you have to show where it is a second law of thermodynamics violation, minus the narrative, their narrative, right?
Yeah, that they don't have the mirror of what we have. So in other words, you can the simple word pressure, you know, it needs to press. Well, that in and of itself is an explanation and a demonstration of your point with so few words because you can make it really concise. Yeah, you can expand on it. The available energy for work is running out. You know, you can expand upon it and then explain that the energy of the gas that you have alleged to be stuck to the ball is next to a vacuum and would dissipate until it dispersed all of its energy and reached equilibrium. In other words, you can make it as wordy or as concise as you like, but they don't have the opposite of that. You know, they don't have a demonstration of gas pressure being maintained without a container. Whereas, you know, in recent days, literally in the last couple of weeks, Zachary Zabala's gone out and produced a gas pressure gradient. Now, shock horror, he had a container.
Right, it's necessary antecedent. I haven't seen that video. I don't know what Zach's done, but it's besides the point.
Yeah. Well, they go to the fringes basically of their arguments. So say what the sun is, show us the container. They try to get you into these questions first.
Sure.
I ask you first, and you have to answer me first. And
sure, but that's not a problem.
But it's more a debating tactic than a real attack on the argument.
Yeah, they're not thinking on their feet because they have a little difficulty with necessary antecedents and consequence. That's all this is. That's all it boils down to, right? Along with the cow and the ribeye, right?
Yeah,
they're just using political tactics at this point to just postpone the argument.
Precisely. Exactly. Postpone the argument with obfuscation. That's precisely all that they can do by basically saying, you know, you're pointing out that you can't have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container, and they say fence posts, they don't work on a flat Earth, and you go,
or whirlpools.
Nice.
Whirlpools.
Yeah, whirlpools. Adam, is he still here?
Or bird landings. I think that's a good one too.
Bird landing, right. It descends into farce with their arguments real quick. You just got to ask for a phenomena and it'll descend into birds landing.
Could you, Nathan, when you first heard him say that, I mean, I know what you said, but what went through your mind?
what went through my mind is what I want them to do by asking them to give a phenomena is, as soon as you've got the phenomena, what you're then trying to establish, if you're performing science, is the cause of that specific effect. So it doesn't matter what they say unless they say either a direct cause and effect relationship that could be attributed to the cause of gravity, or it'll be something that isn't that, you know, like mass or bird landing or something that's just not gravity. And they'll never give you an observed phenomena in that regard. So it doesn't matter what they name. 99.9% of the time you can just laugh at what they claim is their phenomena.
Hey, you know
Yeah,
what
but
was
bird
really
land-
good? You know what was really good about that hangout is Arwen's responses, his facial expression.
Yeah, looking off to the
During-
side, shaking his head. At one point he even walked off. He's like, this is going to be a bloodbath. I'm just going.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But
Yeah, you
my
tried
favourite...
to contain it, Arwen, but it couldn't.
Yeah, you could do it. He
Nathan
tried-
was on the leash.
Well,
was on the
my
leash.
favourite part was Arwen's total lack of sympathy when he was like, well, I did actually ask you for this earlier and you just obfuscated and started talking about your metal plates.
yeah.
Yep.
yeah, but I like the facial expression. I think he face palmed one time. I was laughing, boy.
Yeah, the slow kind. Like, oh god.
There we go again.
I liked his appeal though. It was great. So he's appealing to, I came on, I was hoping for a really nice hangout. Now I've ended up in a screaming match. And okay, I told you to fuck off, but ultimately I'm sorry. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm sorry too. Pretty please with sugar on top. Give me your scientific evidence for gravity.
and Arwen was going along. Yep, okay. That's okay. Nathan did it correctly. And then I think Arwen called him, dude.
Yeah, but come on, you did really just keep on pumping that energy in there, and the guy was literally a newbie. He basically even stumbled into the concept of flat Earth probably not even a few months ago. So, yeah, you were being pretty hard on
Harsh.
him for a
Yeah.
newbie.
Only because I watched him for an hour, approximately, give you the runaround, and basically get to the end of a point, and rather than concede it, move on. And there'd be a little bit of back and forth, but then the subject would move on. And like you said, you were like, well, you didn't concede that. But it's like, well, that's your punishment. You know, you've had the softer, I don't want to say soft, but the softer approach from Arwen, and he's laid it out. And at one point, someone in the chat said, get in there, Nathan, you need to help him. And I was like, you're having a laugh, right? Arwen's demolishing him. He's made every point perfectly concisely, calmly, put it to him. The guy just hasn't conceded. So after about the third time it went round in a circle, I thought, sod this. Why he needs hammering. He's heard it 3 times. He's not conceded. Why are we going round in the third circle? Let's just smash him over the head with this. All I did was repeat what you said, Arwen. So, you know, I hadn't stolen your thunder. I was like, no, he just needs to be battered with the exact same information he's been put forth by the host already and just basically ignored, like they all do. He's reverted to Johnny Globehead in 2 months, if that's all he's been doing it.
Well,
Yeah.
What I was actually planning to do with him is just kind of let him off the leash and just give him some space to figure it out on his own, and then get back to him. And the next time, just see, has he actually been paying attention, or is he just listening to Globers and getting the nasty tactics in there? So I'm still wondering, like, where is he going now? But I think he's a pretty good guy overall. He's just very into the whole globe thinking. He's very into that.
What a shame.
What a shame. Hey, and every time you'd call him, it wasn't at home, so you'd say idiot, and Nate Arwen would cringe.
Yeah,
every
that-
time you called him a name.
But
it was a bit
idiotic.
unnecessary.
To be honest, when people are like, "Oh, why'd you get so angry?" Because it's genuine. He is literally making my blood boil because he's saying, I know from what he's disclaimed on your show, based on his own words, that he's a man of science, and he's quite proud of it, and he's lording it over you like you're his inferior because he's a man of science and you are not. So at the point that he says, my observed natural phenomena is dropping keys, literally, I can feel it building in me now just repeating it. It makes my blood boil. It's like, you are claiming to be a scientist. Not only that, you're lording it over the host like you're some sort of special shit. And you don't even know what a phenomena is. You can't give me one. And when you do give it me, it's you dropping a set of keys. It's like, you don't deserve to be in that university.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
To be fair, Nathan, I didn't feel like he was lording over me, really. I thought it was more, well, he just had pride of his knowledge. I didn't feel he was lording over me. He was just very confident about his assertions, his belief in gravity, basically, and his insight into the structure, the mathematical structure, how that all works out.
But they all come in that way. That
Yeah.
they think they have something over us and know something, and they are going to explain everything to us, right? So, and then
No, but-
when they find someone like you or like Nathan, then they find you arrogant, and then later on, when you call them names, they play the victim card. That's usually what happens.
Yeah, precisely. That is the,
And if
the pattern.
the victim card doesn't work, then they begin the screaming and the ad homing, and then the whole thing ends bad.
Well, I didn't experience that pretty much until Nathan came on, really, and amped up the energy.
I have that effect on
But
people.
what I did notice a very distinct pattern, and even before Nathan came on, I did point it out. Like, you're avoiding the question. You're actually red herring me. Do you realize this? I did mention all of that.
Hey,
Oh,
then
yeah.
you said,
Oh yeah.
well, then
you did a great
answer it.
job. You did a really great job, Owen. To be perfectly honest, I was watching, and like I say, from the chat, I was saying, yeah, Owen's absolutely. He doesn't need any help from me. Owen's perfectly capable, and you know, and I know that you are perfectly well capable. And you took his arguments apart calmly, but there's got to be a point where someone just slaps him.
Well, you took the initiative, Nathan. You took the initiative, Nathan.
Yeah, to shake them up a little bit.
Well, and Arwen was getting upset too, because the guy came back and said, okay, I'll give the observed phenomena. And then he started talking about something up, and Arwen said, well, come on, man.
Yeah, you appealed to him too,
Yeah,
Owen.
he was
You're like, I says,
constantly
give me your
repeating-
observed phenomena, and you appealed to him. You're like, but this time, can you actually do it? Can you actually give it to us? It was great.
Well, answer it then. That's Arwen. That's what he said. I think that's what he said.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
He looked dead into the camera too. He was looking down. Oh, answer it. You could see him getting frustrated. Yep. I thought it was great, Arwen. I loved Nathan's voice, and then your facial expressions, just your demeanor started getting aggravated.
Cool. Right, I'm going to use that as my opportunity to round out the after show part of BALLBUSTERS. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to Quantum Eraser, Betty Van Velsen, Adam Meakin and Arwen for making this after show possible. Also a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley premiering stream for tuning in, smashing the super chat, liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. If you want to keep yourself occupied after this stream has ended, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Once again, I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next BALLBUSTERS.